Hey folks, this is video 3 in a short series I'm doing here on YouTube. We're doing a full tour of the homestead, talking about what we've done and where we're going. There's a lot of projects happening this year, and in this video we're going to take a look at my diesel generator. I'm going to show you a new toy and show you what's going on with my fence, and how we're going to be making some changes to the water system as we fire it up to get ready for the gardening season. And if you want to see all of my daily vlogs, I'm trying to do it daily as often as I can up at fromthefield.tv. Hope to see you there. Enjoy this one. I think I've talked about this in previous videos, but this is a 13 kilowatt Yanmar diesel generator. It's a really fantastic unit. It's spec'd to be pretty much what we need. I could have gone smaller, I could have gone bigger, but the price point for this was what I liked for what we needed. And so, like I said, I only really needed to run this during the darkest and coldest part of the year. So it was the end, November 1st until January 1st, is only running this about once a week. I did burn about 100 liters of diesel this winter running this, and I get about 5 kilowatt hours per 100 liters or per 1 liter of diesel, just to give you an idea on cost. And right now diesel is expensive. It's the highest I've ever seen it. It's just under $2 per liter. For a short period, diesel was actually more expensive than gas. It's back down, but that's this unit, and so this gets us through the darkest part of the winter and meets our needs really well on this property. So this is my new toy. I also have a Kubota skid steer, which you've seen in probably dozens of videos. I use that for a lot of things. A skid steer is probably the best machine, probably the best purchase of a machine that I've ever made in my life. I use it for hauling materials, managing the driveway. I have a snowblower for it, a snow blade, a bucket. I've got a rock bucket for it. I've got a claw for moving logs. It's an incredibly useful machine, and I'm actually glad that I got that machine before I got this one. So this one just showed up last week. It's a Kubota 040-4, and the reason that I purchased this machine in particular is it has this thing called a 6-way blade. So this dozer blade can move in 6 different directions. It can go up and down like this, it can go up and down like that, and it can move side to side to move material to the left or the right or wherever. And because I have so much road work up here, I've already used this blade a ton. And this machine is absolutely perfect. We've got a lot of trenching we have to do this year, a ton of earthworks. The thumb allows me to pick up rocks. You know, that's one thing that we're going to be doing here, is doing a lot of earthworks with rocks. This property is rocky. I have big rocks everywhere. So I'm going to be placing a lot of rocks to make retaining walls and all kinds of things. So we're going to be putting a lot of hours on this machine this year, and it showed up right at the perfect time. This fence is about 2,400 linear feet, and it surrounds the interior 8 acres of our property. Our property altogether is 40 acres, but this surrounds our kind of main living area. And I'm about to fire this back up. It's actually been down all winter. I just deactivated it because it doesn't really serve a purpose in the winter, because the main purpose of this fence is to keep animals out of my garden and my compost. Primarily, my biggest concern is bears, but also just to keep deer out of the garden. And so it's an electric fence. I'll kind of show you real quick. We built this last summer. It took one guy about 6 weeks to build it. He wasn't here day in and day out. He would come do a shift for 4 days and then go away and then come back. And it took him about a month. And this fence cost about $30,000 Canadian. And it's 8-foot high tensile. The biggest challenge we had on this fence is the fact that we have so much rock on this property, but we have 2 electrical lines. And so the idea with these, and if you can see, they kind of stick out about 16 inches from the fence. And so the idea here is that this would prevent an animal from climbing over it. And there are some parts on the property where they can climb up trees to jump over, and those are things that we have to work on that we'll be doing in the next coming vlogs. So this fence has been basically decommissioned all winter, and so one thing I'm going to have to be doing soon here is turning this back on and finding if there are any disruptions, because right now I did turn it on and it's not going to full voltage, so there's a break somewhere. So I've got a little tool that it's a little Gallagher electric voltage reading tool, and I can touch it to the line and it'll tell me which direction the break is. So I'm going to have to find out where maybe something has been ungrounded or whatnot. But the bears are going to be waking up soon, and so I'm going to have to be keeping this closed so they don't come and trash our compost. This is our primary water line from our well. Now our well is actually right behind me by that IBC tote. And the idea with our well, and I witched it in the summer. I used the dowsing rods and I found the spot. Pretty proud of myself for that, but we tried to drill 400 feet to get water. But we did get it, and we got 10 gallons a minute. And this well, we dug a trench. It's now covered up, but it goes straight into the house. And so this line that we're standing by here is a temporary line because the house isn't built. And this is how I get water from our well. So it pumps out, it goes down by the house site, and it comes back up. And this has been decommissioned all winter. And so we're going to be firing this up as soon as the snow melts. We're going to be pumping water back uphill. I've got 16,000 liters of cisterns up about 100 feet from where we stand. And that is where my garden water goes. So we're going to be firing this up in the next few weeks or so, as soon as we aren't really getting below freezing at night. But I've been using actually this intermittently because I need water for all the nursery stuff and all the potting up I've been doing. So I've been firing it up, pumping water into an IBC tote, and then decommissioning it so it doesn't freeze at night, because we're still getting below freezing at night, and then just using that water as we need it. But as soon as we get out of this little cold spell and get back into spring, we'll be able to turn this back on. And then that cistern is our gravity feed to the entire garden. So last year, if you followed the vlogs from the field, I laid out how I did it all. But we're going to be going a lot more into detail this year, because now I'm going to be hooking up all the gardens. So this is my primary line. This is a 1¼ inch prime 100 line. So this line can hold 100 PSI. It doesn't ever have 100 PSI on it, but it can hold 100 PSI. So it has about 60 PSI on it. And so once the house is done and all that, the way this will work when it's all finished is that there's water pressure tanks in the utility room in the house that the well goes directly underground year round, fills up those pressure tanks, and then that water we use domestically in the house for whatever we need, as well as to any faucets that go on the outside of the house, which will also go into the greenhouse. So the greenhouse will have the ability to have water in it year round, even in the winter. And then there'll be a line that comes out of those pressure tanks that goes on this prime 100 line all the way up 100 feet high to the cisterns. And in those cisterns, there's a pressure valve that the line comes in outside of the cistern. It's like a flush valve. And so there's a little floaty in there that when the tanks get to a certain point, the pressure valve closes and it'll stop at a certain PSI, and then that'll, with enough resistance, then the pressure tanks will no longer want to push to it. So once that's all done at the house, this whole thing will be automated. But until that point, all I'll be doing in the gardening to get started, because we'll be gardening well before the houses are finished, is we'll be manually turning the pump on, pumping water up to the cisterns, and then that'll last us weeks, 16,000 liters, and then we'll be gravity feeding down into the gardens and then hooking everything up as we do.